Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the podcast. This week I'm joined by the lovely Tori, and we are going to be talking about which diploma, like how do you know which diploma to choose? So hopefully you guys listening will know that we run 4 different jewelry diploma programs, and I know a lot of you guys are already on them. Some of you might be thinking about doing one in the future or joining us for this September intake. And probably the question we get asked the most about the jewelry diplomas is, how do I know which one to choose? And I think particularly people ask about the diploma in silver jewellery, which is our first year, and the diploma in fine jewellery, and which one they should start with. So that's kind of the topic for today. We're also going to talk a little bit about the diplomas for anyone who's not heard about them much before. And Tori is here to join me because Tori has completed 3 of the 4 diploma programs, all of the ones except the silver metal clay one. And Tori has her own jewelry business, Tori Foster Jewellery, and she's just, she's a very great example of someone who's gone through the program, running her own business. She also works in the team at Jewellers Academy, so she kind of has that unique insight into both student and teacher world. So welcome, Tori. It's lovely to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And so maybe we can start a little bit by just explaining the 4 diplomas and who they're suitable for. So we've got the diploma in silver jewellery, which is we call that year 1 sometimes, and actually that was the only one that existed for like 7 years.
That's all you could have.
Yeah, and it was enough. It was awesome. It's a great course. It goes from beginner through to professional level within 1 year. So the whole goal of that course is that if you are new to jewelry making, you can get to the level where you can make professional quality jewelry and commercial things such as engagement rings and wedding rings, all manner of things, collections, and some people stop there and that's all that they need, and they go off and they run their incredible jewelry businesses, and that's wonderful. And then there's the year 2, which is the diploma in fine jewellery. So this is aimed at, so I'd say year 1 is beginner to intermediate level. Some people do start and they already have experience in jewelry making, because there's a lot in there, and we'll go into more detail.
Yeah, there is.
In a moment, but it's not just a beginner's course. It's very much, even though we start at the beginning, we get quite advanced in that course as well. So the diploma in fine jewellery is really taking things up a level, and this is for, as a intermediate to advanced level jewelers. So if you have been making jewelry for a little while, but you still haven't covered a lot of the techniques, like some of the stone setting techniques, granulation, wax carving, then you probably aren't quite ready to go on to the fine jewellery. The fine jewellery is quite advanced, but we'll go into more detail in a moment. And then we've got the year 3, which is the Advanced Jewellery Diploma, which really is advanced. There's a lot of very technical things in there. And the 4th diploma is almost separate. It's a totally different way of making jewelry, and that's a diploma in silver metal clay, which we introduced last year, and we've got our first cohort going through it at the moment. It's a really wonderful program, and that is suitable for anyone. You can be a complete beginner, you can be advanced, but it's just a totally different kind of material. So Tori, what would you say, I guess, to someone saying, like, I don't know which one to do, where do I start? Are there any thoughts as I was going through that came up for you?
Yes, definitely. So I started the silver diploma, and I did have some experience already. I'd been doing a night class. I'd done some sort of individual courses beforehand, but I had some things that I wanted to refresh or get a little bit more confident in, and then there were some things that I just never even considered doing. So I think my main piece of advice is to really take a good look through the curriculum. So that's all available on the website, and it lists everything that's covered throughout the year. If you're thinking, if you're in between the fine and the silver, if you think you can do the majority of the silver, then maybe you could look on to doing the fine straight away. if you've got that experience there already. There's obviously, so it's March now, so it doesn't start till September, so there's plenty of time to get a bit of practice in if there's bits that you're not too sure on. But if there is some really big gaps, then doing the silver diploma, even if you have already got that sort of basic knowledge there, there's not sort of like there's no shame there. We have got quite a mix of people joining that course. Like there's some absolute like complete beginners, never even looked at us or before, and then there are some people with some experience already. I think so. Yeah, even though I had that experience in like some of the basic stuff, it does move quite quickly. And so you do progress onto some of the more complicated things quite quickly. And even though I had covered some of it, it was quite nice to get a bit of a refresher and some different ways of doing things.
Mm.
So before I'd only learned from one tutor, so I only had like this is the way that you do it. there's no other ways around it. But there's a load of different tutors on the diplomas, and so you can pick up little tips and tricks from those, and I found that really valuable.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree. I think learning the same technique from different tutors is so helpful. I still do that today. I'm like, sometimes I'm doing a course somewhere and they're like, don't you already know how to do this? I'm like, yeah, but I don't know how you do this.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
how you do collet setting versus this other person, because one thing I've definitely learned from, even just watching all the filming and all the different tutors is we're all taught in different ways. And I think you're so versatile as a jeweler if you can kind of see the different ways and then make your own decision. Like, actually, I prefer this way because it makes more sense to me, or it's more comfortable for my hands, or the style of jewelry that I'm going to be making. This is going to be really helpful. So yeah, I definitely understand. And I think, with the diplomas, like you said, it is quite fast moving. Every week almost, you're doing a new project. So even if there's something you think, oh, I have done a cabochon setting before, like for example, with the cabochon setting weeks, you're doing a cabochon setting, a tube setting, and a flush setting. So even if you've done a cabochon before, it's like that you got to do 3 stone settings. So it's always going to kind of challenge you a bit more. And I also think if you're used to doing kind of evening classes and those kind of things, which are great. I love in-person courses, but there's something a bit different about making on your own at home. And I actually think it can be a little bit harder because you've got to self-motivate and you've got to, like, every little struggle you've got to work through. And so even if you think, well, I've done that in a course, it's like, how much did the teacher help you with that, and how could you do that on your own at home? And sometimes it's just, it's like a subtle difference, but I think it's never bad to go back and refresh things and kind of move forwards, but at the same time it's good to challenge yourself. So for some people, like Tori said, if you already have a lot of the skills and you've had to go at a claw setting, you know how to do some collet setting. It's usually the settings that I think,
Yeah.
and the soldering, you're confident soldering multiple pieces. And generally, if we talk about tools, you know what they are. Because I think one of the things that doesn't always come across is it's not just that it's harder as you go up the diplomas, but we assume knowledge. So we won't say, this is how you make a silver ring. We'll just start with, make your silver ring.
Yeah.
Then we'll move forward to, and this is how we're going to set like pave setting in it or whatever. So it's not just that you need to be better or anything like that. It's just that we won't teach you as effectively if you're not in the right one. But I think generally people find their way into the right courses and it kind of tends to work out. Yeah, so maybe you can talk, Tori, a bit about your experience in the Fine Diploma and I guess moving from one to the other, because you had a bit of a gap. You had a gap because there wasn't a Fine Diploma.
Yeah.
The silver, but maybe talk about kind of, the progression and how people can make the decision whether to move into the next level as well.
Yes. So there was a bit of a gap. There was, I think, about 3 or 4 years maybe. There was nothing for me to do. And then the Fine Diploma came online and that was absolutely brilliant. So I loved the structure, the structured learning of the Silver Diploma. I know like people can learn from YouTube and stuff like that, but I need to be told and sort of like held accountable, I guess. And that's what, like, the Fine Diploma had so many different settings and techniques. I just wanted to keep learning, and I'd sort of been looking for something after the Silver Diploma, and didn't quite find anything that matched what I wanted to do. And so it was like a perfect follow on, when it came to be. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, sometimes people, when they come towards the end of the Silver Diploma, will say to us, like, I just want to take a year out and then come back to the Fine. And I think that always sounds like a good idea. But in reality, it can be quite tricky, because once you're in that flow of learning and you've put aside a certain amount of hours every week, and you're, like you said, the structure, you're kind of in the structure. What we find a lot of people come back and say to us is, I took a year out to practice and I didn't do anything, because it's almost too much pressure to just be like, what do I do now? I'm not, you know, it's almost like I'm not ready to be. I think it's different. I've definitely noticed people who all they ever want to do is the year one, and they've made that decision from the beginning because they don't want to make fine jewelry. They
yeah,
want to make like silver jewelry, they want to make and there's no judgment on either, they're just different things. Fine jewelry is working with gold, it's more kind of elaborate stone settings, it's often commission based pieces, you know, and for some people they say, well, I just want to like teach a beginner class and that's my goal, and actually I've got enough with the silver, I've, you know, I've got everything I need. Or you know, I'd rather make silver jewelry and the pieces that I've learned in the Silver Diploma. But I think what I see quite a lot is people do the year one, they want to do the year two, they're nervous they won't be good enough, so they don't sign up, then they take a year out, and then they wish they kind of had signed up. And you know,
yeah,
often they'll kind of come back and join in again. But I do think that the momentum and kind of like carrying on with the training, if you can, there's definitely a cumulative benefits to keep going. And just
yeah.
with
It's funny what you say about being like not thinking that you're good enough, because you're always a beginner. Like when you if you've never done the techniques that are covered in the course, of course you're not going to know. You're not going to know what's going on, and that's the sort of part of the joy of doing it. And I found as well, I was just thinking when you were talking then, even though I haven't used many of the skills, like in my day-to-day stuff for the Fine Diploma, it's more like those one-off commission sort of things. The things that it did teach me was like reaffirming some of the basic skills, like really complicated solder stuff, like the claw earrings. I did think I could solder until I did those.
they have like
That's made me so much more confident going forward as well.
Yeah, I was actually talking about this with someone the other day, I think one of the students, because we were talking about certain projects, like you said, you're probably never going to do again. Like in the Silver Diploma, there's the kite project, which is kind of notorious, but it's a project that we put in where you're doing like a lot of soaring, really kind of detailed, precise soldering and filing, and it's almost like a boot camp for those skills. I think of it a bit like in terms of fitness, if someone was like, do your press ups, like do your sprints, and it's like you're not going to want to keep doing, well, some people do. You're not going to want to keep doing those, but it's like training. And then when you come back to doing something, like I think the current Silver Diploma student that recently did the gold stacking bands,
Yeah.
which is a lovely set, and after doing a trinket box, which is like much more challenging technically, you know, it's kind of forming something 3D, it needs to fit into the lid, needs to fit into the base, and there's all these elements, a lot more heat, and then you go back to do like stacking bands in gold and a little bit of stone setting, and they're all like, this is so lovely, it's so easy now, like having done that more challenging thing. So yeah, I think some things we learn because we want to learn how to make that thing, and other things we learn because we just want to improve our technical ability, so that when we come back to do the things, it feels a lot easier and we're quicker as well, which can help
Yeah.
a lot from a business kind of perspective. Yeah. And then moving on to the advanced, because you know, we're getting more and more people move on to the advanced course, which is amazing. I love the progression onto the advanced because there's some really lovely stone settings in there. There's some quite detailed work in there. And there's also some fun stuff, like there's some catwalk jewelry and some brooches. And I know you've talked before, Tori, about your favorite pieces being some of those. Maybe you can talk a bit about, did you go straight from the fine to the advanced, and what was your experience in the advanced?
Yes, yeah. So I went straight from the fine to the advanced. I did sort of stumble a little bit as to whether I was going to do it or not, because like you were saying before, like I did kind of just want to um, just practice really what I'd learned in the Fine, because there was a lot covered. But I'm so glad I went on to do it, because it was really fun. It was another one like that. The brooch and the mixed media pieces were so much fun. But then all of the really technical bits, they were challenging, to put it lightly, and they were a step up. But really fascinating to learn. And again, it's something that I would maybe have gone and learned eventually. But again, to have that structure and go through was really beneficial. And like the quality of the teaching is brilliant. Like Scott's amazing, Haley and Anelia, everyone's really, really just really helpful. And I've learned so much from it.
Absolutely. I think that's something that I love about the programs as well as the teachers that we're able to access. That's one of the great things with online learning is we all have local teachers, and I think probably, everywhere there's a really good teacher somewhere. But they don't necessarily have the same technical ability as a team of people who've all got specialized skills. So, you talked about Scott, who's a master stone setter. Most of us don't have a master stone setter down the road. Some of us do, but
Nice.
a lot of us don't. Like if I wanted to go and do a one-to-one with someone, I need them to be a master stone setter. That would be quite challenging, especially if you've got like little people at home or other responsibilities, working full-time, that kind of thing. So I think having access to that team is so useful. And, you have that all the way through the diplomas, but even more so, I suppose, on the advanced, you work even closer with the mentors on the individual projects, because it is that more niche and more specific, which is really cool. And then the one diploma you haven't done is the diploma in silver metal clay. Although I'm pretty sure you've done some silver metal clay, haven't you?
I did, yeah. So I started with metal clay. I did a class in the London Jewellery School, and I'd never really thought about working with metal until I'd done that. And then, to be fair, I don't really do a lot with clay now. I can roll it out and put a texture on it. That's about it.
You can do the basics, yeah.
I can do like the real the beginner stuff. But I've been hosting the calls for some of the clay Q&As and doing the notes for the classes, and it is absolutely fascinating. Like I've just finished in term 3. There's a set of masterclasses. So I've just finished Joy's enameling workshop. Absolutely, so fascinating, so fascinating. I'm really excited to see what people make with that.
Yeah, it's very cool. She makes like a little owl.
Yeah, it's so cute.
But it's like this little owl, and she does the cloisonné technique, which is using silver wire. And yeah, Joy Funnel, who teaches that class, just loves color. She's always, all about color. Yeah, yeah. And the samples are just like I've put it on our Instagram as well, but some of her samples are just really gorgeous, really colorful. But yeah, in terms of like what order, it's been quite interesting what people have been doing. So obviously most people go diploma in silver, diploma in fine, advanced diploma. And then some of them go to silver metal clay after, which is it's not a natural progression, but it's just like another really cool thing to do if you want to keep learning. Then some people have done silver clay, and then, it's only their first year, but I know a few people signed up to the silver class afterwards, diploma in silver, because they're like, okay, now I feel like I've got a really good grip on silver metal clay, but I'd like to improve my kind of silver skills. There's actually someone recently who was asking about, they started with the fine and they've done the advanced, and they asked if they could go back and do the silver because there were projects in there that they haven't done. And it made me think it's so interesting, because we obviously look at it as a training organization about what level you're at and how to move you forwards in the best way and help you improve your skills. But like Tori said, you're a beginner at everything unless you've done it. So even if you're in the advanced diploma, if you've never made a trinket box, which is in the silver diploma, so you might not know how to do it, because a lot of this stuff is kind of project-based learning. So I thought that was really interesting. So she is going back to do the silver diploma, having done the fine in the advanced, because there were bits that she missed that she really wants to do. And I think the silver is great if you're going to do teaching, because you really don't want to skip any skills if you're going to be teaching people, because you want to cover all of the basics kind of again and again and again.
And have those different ways of approaching it. Like I was saying before, if one way doesn't work for one student, then if you've got another way to explain it, that's really helpful to sort of be able to fall back on that. You might have a preferred way of making rings, but actually it doesn't quite make sense to somebody else. So being able to explain it in a different way is really helpful.
Yeah, and you do teaching workshops as well, don't you,
I
Tori?
do.
Have you
Yeah.
found like, helping the Jewelers Academy and going through all the courses helpful with your own students, kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, again, picking up different tips is really helpful. And just the different ways that people sort of explain things. People are really good at sort of breaking it down into something really, really simple, and getting it across effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, like to kind of wrap up, hopefully that's given people an idea of where they're going to sit and things like that. There's no kind of ego involved in like what level you're at, or there's no comparison. Like it doesn't matter. Some people have been making jewelry for like 5 or 10 years and they come on the silver diploma because, maybe they've been doing it really part-time and they haven't had much time to practice, or they just have only ever made the same sort of thing and they haven't expanded out. So it's not always to do with how good in air quotes you are, but it's
Yeah.
just what do you want to learn. I think that's one of the main things. And then yeah, with the fine and the advanced, we just always try and encourage the right people to come on, because we don't want you to do a few weeks and feel disheartened that it's too difficult, or it's too easy or whatever. Usually it's more the too difficult side. So we really try and encourage you to kind of, yeah, like Tori said, have a look at the curriculum, look at the projects, be honest with yourself about what you can and can't do at the moment. And all of it's taught from scratch, isn't it, Tori? We kind of go
Yeah.
through step.
I think as well, like if you have got some experience, the feedback that you get from the mentors is really helpful. I think from like I had a bit going into the silver diploma, but getting that feedback then sort of gave me the confidence to be able to go on and sell my jewelry. I'd done a little bit of it before, like on Etsy, I'd have few rings and stuff up on there, but not masses. And so that, yeah, it gave me the confidence to then go on and sell and to go on and teach as well. I started teaching just after I'd done the silver diploma.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that lots of people are self-taught nowadays, and it's really lovely that we do have books and YouTube and we have those things as well that we put out, and it's awesome. But I think there is no replacement for a structured learning in terms of not only the skills and making sure you've not got big gaps, but also, yeah, like the confidence and the helping with the imposter syndrome. If
Yeah.
you feel like, well, I've invested in my training, I've had mentoring, I've had feedback, I've had support. When you go on to things like setting up your own business, or maybe opening a shop, or working with shops and galleries, or teaching, you kind of have that kind of ingrained knowledge of, no, I have trained, I can do this, and that confidence, and I guess the support network as well. That's something we've not really talked about so much on this call, but just the friends, the community, the connections that you make with people on the journey at the same time. I'm sure probably part of your decision to sign up for the next year, Tori, was that some of your peers were doing it.
Yeah, I didn't want to be left behind. I didn't want to miss out.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely see the FOMO on the Facebook group. People are like, oh, I didn't want to do it straight away, but you guys are all doing it, so I'm going to do it. And yeah, it's lovely to see people progress together as a cohort, like from our side as well. It's just really nice to watch that journey. And I saw a post actually in one of the Facebook groups just before we came on today. It was really lovely, and someone put like I think it's diploma in silver, and they're just saying they're so proud of everyone, of how far everyone's come together, and that they've seen other people's journey.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's harder to see in ourselves the growth, but when you've got a whole group of people around you, you're like, wow, look how far you've come. And there's lovely warm fuzzy appreciation posts. It's just really cool to kind of have that support while you're going through all the learning. So brilliant. All right, well, just before we wrap up, what would you say, Tori, to anyone thinking about joining us this year, or who's kind of like unsure about which one to choose? What would be your kind of final thoughts on it?
Yeah, if you're unsure, like, do just have a good look at what's covered. That normally convinces me, because all the pictures of the shiny, sparkly things, I want to get involved. If you are unsure, though, like, you can email us, you can book a discovery call. I'm doing most of those, so if you want to chat to me a little bit more about my experience, then do so. But like, yeah, if just go for it. I think that's always my answer. Just if you sort of woman and are, and you probably do want to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think so. I'm always one of those people when I see something, I just want to do it straight away. But I know that not everyone has that same, some people need to warm up to things, and there's some benefit in that personality trait of not
Yeah.
jumping in head first as well. So absolutely, like Tori said, we're here to kind of give you any support you need. And Tori's doing the discovery course, so you get to have a chat with her if you want to. We'll put the link in the show notes to sign up to have a chat with Tori. But if not, do go ahead and sign up. There's only a few weeks left until enrollment closes for the whole year. Dun dun dun! Not to scare anyone, because we just need a little bit of time to assign mentors and sort out all the material kits. And yeah, we won't be opening for enrollment for another year. So we're excited. And we're excited for people who've already signed up. I mean, there's loads of you guys and it's awesome. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing everyone's journey. So thanks again, Tori, for coming and sharing your knowledge. If people want to find you and go and say hi, where is the best place to connect with you online?
Probably Instagram. I spend too much time on Instagram, and it's at Tori Foster Jewellery.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely go and give Tori a follow if you're not already, and say hi. She's really lovely, a lovely part of the community. Tutor, mentor, student.
You can nosy at some of my past projects as well if you feel like scrolling.
Oh yeah, that's true. Have a look back and see the progress. It's always quite nice to scroll back on someone's feed, isn't it? Especially someone who you feel like, wow, because at the beginning it all feels really unachievable, I think.
Yeah.
How on earth, like I can't do that kind of stuff. And then
yeah, I mean I had that at the Fine, like the clustering. I wear it every single day. I remember seeing that on the Fine Diploma and just being like, there is not a chance that I will make that. And then it turns out in term 3 you can make it. It's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, and I think, that's, maybe we'll leave on this, but I think it's, sometimes with all the self-learning and stuff like that, I think that it's lovely that there's so much available, but it can also put a lot of pressure on people to achieve before they've had the support. And actually, I think teaching is a great thing. I think learning is being taught is a great thing. There's no shame in having someone who knows what they're doing guide you through a process, because it's it's kind of being kind to yourself in a way that you get the support you need to progress, because it's hard. Like jewelry making can be hard, and so having good teaching, having good support, having good community makes it really kind of possible and achievable and much more enjoyable. So awesome. Great. Well, thanks again, Tori. I'm sure we'll speak again soon, and thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you on another episode next week. Bye for now.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. See ya.